So I am live on Memorial Day in Amor, Minnesota. So hi, Joanna, if you're watching, live from Amor, where Joanna and I spent probably many Memorial Days in our childhood, especially when my grandmother was still alive. We would come out to Amor Cemetery, and at Amor Cemetery, we would come to the 21 gun salute because Paul Stender, one of the people responsible for helping to raise my grandmother, and it was really her uncle that raised her and her aunt from the time she was a teenager. Anyway, we would come out here to Amor, and I found out a little bit of history, and you know how I am about making sure that we do ancestral things. The year before my mom passed, I actually did come to Amor for the last time with my mom and my dad and my uncle Paul and my aunt Sarah. And it wasn't on Memorial Day, but it was the last time I was out here with my mother and also the last time I was out here. And so I have some of my mom's ashes with me today on Memorial Day. And I was in Fargo and I thought, well, why not stop and do some ritual? And so I'm going to go ahead and turn this around if I can figure out how to. So this is my grandparents. uh, yes. What I really found was interesting. Dates really fascinate me. So there's a few things that are fascinating, and the reason why I decided to do a live out here. There's a couple things that I just want to point out. First of all, my grandmother passed away on 11/17/1990. If you look at how close it was, almost exactly 20 years. My lineage has a habit of oftentimes passing away in these teens, especially the ones connected to this particular lineage. And what was really crazy, I did not remember this one. This one that freaked me out a little bit because my lineage does these things with numbers. And so I always say the grandmothers are 117 or 1117 because my grandma Adams and my grandma Strand both passed on days like that. So 117 was when Grandma Adams passed away. Well, I just found my great grandma also passed away on 117. So, talk about the grandmother's dates. Like, if you think of all the dates that somebody could die, and then you think about how many grandparents and great grandparents you have, the likelihood that both of your grandparents and one of your great grandparents all die on days that have to do with 117. And then my Aunt Carolyn, who just passed away, also has a connection to the 117. Her birthday was 11/7, 117. So 117 in my lineage is a big deal connected to the mothers specifically. Okay. The other thing I wanted to point out here before I get to getting to what I'm going to do, and I just walked, I just walked and selected some stones that I'm just going to set on there because I'm connected to the stones. And I've walked the entirety now of this place, this particular cemetery. And there is only one stone in this entire place that has this, this stone here. The Larsons, these are my great great grandparents right here. Ellen and Nels Larson are my great great grandparents. And they have a stone that is very different than any of the other stones. They also have this really cool, all of my ancestors have this cool sort of, I do know what it is. I looked it up, but I don't remember right now. They have a very unusual stone here. This is called larvicite. So larvicite is a feldspar mineral very similar to labradorite. So it's not your standard granite like Strand, that's my grandparents, or Stender, that's who helped raise my grandma. And then this big thing floating in the middle of nowhere That's a whole nother story for a different day. Why is my grandma Pearson buried over there when her big headstone is over here? No one will ever know. We also own a couple family plots out here that nobody's probably ever going to go in. Like, they're out here, but they'll be empty. That's larvicite. Not one other thing has larvicite. Now, I also found out that the town of Amor, which is where we are right now, was originally founded in the late 1800s by the Larsons. S. Larson is, and 20 some other people. So my assumption would be that these people, my ancestors, had to do with founding this little town of Amor. And it is tiny. It's not even a town. Again, it's a township. But they selected a stone that came from Norway, which is where they were originally from, because it says very specifically in that information about starting up the town that they were from Norway, the people who first did this town. So I just thought it was very interesting that my great great grandparents, excuse me, cared enough to make sure that they had a stone from Norway that they selected for their headstone that no other person in this entire cemetery has. How can that be? That's not, you know what I mean, jelly beans? To me, that is not something that is just that's spirit speaking. So, like, all these generations later, they have a great great granddaughter who um, teaches crystal energy healing and thinks also that selecting the right stone for yourself is a very important thing to do. So, anyway, thank you for gathering with me. I'm sure some of you will watch this later, but thank you for gathering with me when you watch this out here. Just remember, Memorial Day, yes, is about remembering the servicemen and women. More, I am doing work out here to make sure that we no longer carry that forward. You know how I feel about war. You do you, but I don't want war. Love's the only thing strong enough to live in this world. So, I'm going to ask for the ancestors' support in that as we start to seed that as our reality. And I am going to connect to this particular stone. And then I am going to leave some of my mother's ashes here with her, with my ancestors. So I hope everybody's having a beautiful Memorial Day. If you were in the service, thank you for your service. And let's try to make that going forward something that we have in order to make sure we have people to help with things like natural disasters, but not something where we're, having to send one another to kill one another anymore. In this day and age, I think we can move past that. Peace and spiral blessings. Mwah. How do I end it?